Hey, welcome back, everybody. Of course, my name is Dr. Keith McNally, and this is the Question Guy podcast. Of course, we're in season two. I like saying that because it took a journey just to get here. And I'm here talking with Howie Shareff. And I do apologize. That's a tough name to get across, especially with a Yankee accent. But I want to know about your story. So you had an incredible story the first time that we talked. It wasn't a typical man's journey, and you are in you do yoga.
I do yoga.
You
I
do
do it.
yoga and I love it. And you actually have a program that teaches other people how to do yoga. Um, so how did you get involved with that? And why is that important? Why is that important? Because I know a lot of people who do that, and I also know a lot of people who practice meditation for health reasons. It's a good it's and I don't. I don't. I run, I walk, I use weights, and whenever I can, because I'm getting older, I sleep. So I take care of the basic necessities, but I think there's some benefits to learning how to focus your mental and physical energies. And I'm hoping that you can share that with at least me and our audience.
Certainly. And a lot of what you cite is probably a very familiar description for many people. Let's say guys as a start, since we're guys.
Okay.
Um, and getting back to your first inquiry, I got exposed to yoga when I was a dentist. Uh, and I had been practicing for quite a while, been a recreational athlete, playing lots of ball.
Cool.
And I also had arthritis. And one of my patients became a yoga teacher. This is in the mid 90s. And she said, "Why don't you come try it?" So I said, okay, because her practice was near where my office was. And it was convenient for me to go somewhere and get ready to go play softball or go
Okay.
play tennis. So it became part of my cross training. So what I came to find that whatever I was doing, pounding in whatever my practices were, whether it be healthcare or recreation, that lay around breathing, stretching, gentle movement was effective in my performance. So that was an integral part of the discovery was, oh, there's a physical benefit here. And the joke is internally the joke was I used to leave for the rest period, the shavasana, the meditation, because it was time to go play ball.
Oh.
So that was, my sort of out. Um, and then over time, I've come to learn that uh, there's other ways to practice yoga other than making it part of a recreational physical element only. Um, and so I did learn some meditation practices. But really, it wasn't until the last 3 years that I had a meditation practice.
So you said you started learning this in the 90s.
Right.
So that we were and in that's 30 years worth of practice.
Physical, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I did
And
learn transcendental meditation in college, so I did have some of that experience. And when was that, you say, was college? So let's say that was in the 70s.
oh my God.
Uh,
Wait, time out. How old are you? Wait a second.
Younger than you. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, good, because
Take
you look
care. Take
great.
care. 67.
Okay. And so and I say that, although tongue in cheek, do you feel young? Like, do you feel energized? Does this help you feel better?
I'll describe myself as a fine machine that requires frequent and complex tuning.
Okay.
And so, therefore, meditation and physical yoga is part of that. And I don't do a lot of physical yoga, but I do a lot of physical activity. I do yoga some in my practice, but all of this is part of my fine tuning, whether I have acupuncture, whether I have massage, whether I'm playing disc golf. Uh, all of this is part of a balance, as
Okay.
one could say.
Well,
So when I'm playing,
what exactly is yoga? I mean, what is it? Like, is it just a series of
well, let
certain
me tell you,
movements?
I'll tell you. You can't
Or
answer
okay,
you can't put the answer in the question. Uh,
I could try.
well, I'll stop you. Because you're asking me. You're asking me.
So what exactly is what is yoga? Because I really don't know.
To
I mean,
me,
people
to
see like
me.
they stretch and they go into these
Well,
poses.
well, well, yoga is a life science. It's not
Okay.
just a thing, it's a be. So in other words, it's about how you approach and try to look more broadly than the obvious knee jerk. You take a breath,
Uh,
sort of try to enjoy what is as opposed to what isn't. So, therefore, being with yourself and accepting others. So, when you have a practice and you say, well, I want to do this, but I can only do that. Well, are you where you making yourself up to be something you're not? Or are you breathing and being what you are and relishing in that?
hmm.
So, we're all, what I hear is, so many people say they're above average. Then who's average? So, can you be with wherever you are and whatever you want to be and accept it? So, let's say I'm having a lot of disability over my life. So, when you say, am I feeling young? No, my 60s have been a shit show.
Okay. But
So,
you have to, well, go ahead.
I've
Tell me
had
more about yoga.
major surgeries, and yoga is part of my rehab of this. I've had hip replacements, I've had neck surgeries, I've had
Wow.
challenges along the way. Not everything is smooth. There's been complication. And so I've had a ton of practice of being with doo.
Hmm.
So having something to do regularly with my mind and negotiating my body is just part of accepting whatever the crap is, and trying to not worry about what I feel, because I've been disabled, so I feel older than my years.
Okay.
So when I don't feel my years because I'm not disabled to the degree I used to be, then I have more time to really be present broadly as opposed to dealing with stuff in the immediate. So the yoga is what you do with you, it's a skill set of thinking and breathing and moving to deal with the do. That's
Hmm.
my summary of yoga.
How
Thinking,
does,
breathing, moving, dealing with do, and being a good person.
uh, well, I appreciate that. And I don't know if I'm going to adopt that, but that's a unique statement. Dealing with doo-doo I've never had somebody say that. But you wrapped somewhere there's the meditation component that either wraps into it or around it. And I typically do these metaphorical talks. How does the meditation component add to add to your life? I guess is the best way to ask it.
Well, it's an opportunity to be with myself, focus on one thing as best I can, which is the way that I meditate and breathe
Mhm.
in a space, and see what comes up in my head versus my intention, and just try to negotiate that in thought and keep breathing in my practice and just being with what comes up and seeing it and just getting back to my practice. So it's a real focus endeavor, and how that comes up in life is helps me focus on whatever else I'm doing to manage the
Do do. Did I get that right?
do is just sometimes being average or ambitious. So let's say I'm a student of mandolin. I started in my 50s. I also have issues with my hands and arthritis and things like that, but I like music. So I said, I want to participate. So I have to Also, because of my stuff, I have to posture myself as optimally as possible because of my stuff.
Right.
So I picked the instrument that is not easy, but it's most ergonomic. So I have to practice every day. So that is a meditation of being with something and trying to just focus on one thing that I'm mediocre at, but
Okay.
working to improve. So I'm an old guy trying to play like a middle-aged guy. I don't have to be young. I just have to be with, and then I can be in a community. So that's, practicing to be with others. So that's where yoga adds to that, because I have to stand in a yoga pose called mountain, which is basically standing upright,
Mm.
to play well ish. You know what I
Sure.
mean? It's working with it and breathing when I play and smiling and enjoying wherever I'm at as best I can and be ambitious.
So you mentioned that you also teach yoga to others. Is that right?
Yes, yes. I became a yoga certified yoga teacher, registered yoga teacher, about 8 years ago, and I've been teaching longer than that with the training in chair yoga um, since 2008.
So how does one go about teaching others how to, I don't even know what you call it. I guess be themselves. Because you said yoga is about being. And so I'm
Well,
trying to appreciate that.
one before being a teacher, one it's compelling to be a student. So, and to check yourself out, and not everyone's meant to be a teacher. So it
But you
depends on,
are.
yeah. Well, and I created an organization of teachers because it's beyond me. I'm not the only teacher. Uh, it's about the community of teachers and amplifying, the message of well-being and the
Okay.
opportunity for well-being. So uh, that's been the goal, is to get it beyond me. Uh, and so I'm more administrator. Uh, let's say this room, we shot a video in this week because one of our teachers needed to make a video.
Oh,
So
in your house, right there.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah. It was over there.
Great.
Yes. So,
So to teach yoga, don't you have to be with the person or how does it, can you do it virtually or how does your organization work to get the
well,
message
now that
across?
since the pandemic, it's was from live to virtual to hybrid.
Okay.
So right now, half our classes are in person and half our classes are virtual because of our partnerships with Meals on Wheels, Alliance Medical Ministry, a rehabilitative facility. Uh, so we do pop-up classes now. However, it's seasonal or contractual, and online is with sponsors. So there's a whole range of trying to reach people. The tsunami of the pandemic really rocked our boat
Yeah.
and changed our world, and it's not been the same. So it's a renaissance of reconnecting with who's here and who's where and who cares. So that's always the perpetual pursuit of who cares about whatever we're offering, because there's so many other things going on.
Well, can you give us a clue as to who cares? How do you find that person? Or how do they find you?
Well, that's two different things, of course. Um, well, we have a website, we have media, we're constantly putting out educational content. YouTube is a big resource for that on the You Call This Yoga channel.
Cool.
How do we find people?
Oh, wait,
Well,
wait,
there's,
wait, 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 wait. Your letters. What are your letters? YCTY?
yes, You Call This Yoga.
You call this yoga. Okay, great.
Oh,
And
does my name come up like that?
what?
Is my name on the screen? Oh, yeah, there it does. I got to rename.
Cool. Yeah.
I can do that another time.
So, but people need a lot of times people seek out other people for whatever reason. So if they wanted to learn yoga, because
Mhm.
there's a need for change. And there's been a lot of, and like you said, the pandemic really did put this mindset of I need to do something differently at a global scale. And I've had those conversations. How do you see people when they come to you and say, I really need I think I need this, but I don't know. But I need something different. They need to be empowered again. Does that make sense? Because I see that a
Yeah.
lot.
Well, it's an interesting thing of who you're seeing and who comes to us.
Okay.
So,
Well, who comes to you?
well, I would say that when we have live in the community, that's where people are coming to us.
Okay.
We also provide free classes, so people come to us maybe because it's free. So that's one thing. They come to us because our classes are bilingual when we have public classes.
Okay.
However, private classes often come because of the membership that they're in, such as if they're in a medical health complex that serves the working uninsured,
Okay.
or if they're in Meals on Wheels and they're part of a senior community of a certain application, because and it just takes to be a senior to join, or that sort of closed shops. When it's online, we've tried to remove labels and subgroups because that also limits folks. So who we said used to come to our classes online is much more diffuse. But we
Mm.
have Spanish speaking and bilingual people coming to our Spanish class, and people with limited mobility potentially coming to the chair class, and people with more energy coming to the flow. But we don't know our population like we used to because we're
Mm.
not in the same room to the degree we used to be. So that's the big dilemma of who cares because we're not with them so much anymore. So as a director, that's been the perpetual pursuit and some of the challenge of having a niche that's not so nichey anymore.
And I think that's always a challenge for any business is how do you navigate different hurdles or obstacles? And there probably isn't any one solution, and there's probably not even easy answers to my question. So, but how are you trying to tackle that? Because if you offer something that is beneficial to the body and to the brain, surely people would want to know about it.
Surely you would jest.
I don't typically do that often,
But
but
don't call me Shirley. Uh, yes and no. People are swamped with other things.
okay,
Media is overwhelming. Elections, other modes. So it's finding groups and working through activists to do that.
okay.
So how do we do that? We put education on our LinkedIn channel. So I manage that. So I'm
Mhm.
constantly putting out content each week, 4 or 5 days a week.
On
So
LinkedIn.
on LinkedIn,
Good. Okay.
LinkedIn,
Good.
go on LinkedIn, check it out. You call this yoga,
Do you
and
how about Facebook? Facebook?
yeah, yeah,
Good.
English
Yeah.
and Spanish,
Okay.
Instagram. Uh-huh. So we're doing what we can, uh, and people get we put it in our newsletter. Sign up on our newsletter on our website. Uh, we just put our day of free yoga videos on there from Giving Tuesday. So it's how do we? But we don't know. We've got 35% open on the newsletter, which is pretty good. But what's the click throughs?
Mm,
It's hard to track all that with a guerrilla band of operators who are volunteers, and everyone else but me has a day job.
right.
So it's been the creative element of how do we maintain this is relationship building. Uh, who do we know? Who's the board has fundraising to do, and our board has been a high percent of our board has brought a new sponsor in, even at a preliminary level, which is great.
Good.
But that's been innovative, and that's hard to get even board members. So it's just about how to operate in the lean. And I'm a volunteer, and this wouldn't happen if I wasn't a volunteer, uh, because you can't get paid for this. It's just, part of the perpetual pursuit of trying to be positive and relevant in the world. So
So
that's the
let
fuel. When you say, what's the meditation about? That's part of the fuel of the, how to keep this going is you got to work with the doo-doo.
so once you get past the doo-doo, what's the benefits? How do you know that something good has occurred with you, your brain, your body as a result of yoga and meditation?
Reactivity or less of it.
Can you explain that a bit more detail? Because I'm not familiar with that.
Well, stuff comes up. There's disappointments. If there's, what everything didn't happen, it's just part of okay. And it's not over investing in things happening and realizing that change occurs and I'm not in control. So it's that's how it is. It's having a place to calm down and regroup.
So how long does it, and you do this daily, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And is it like an hour's worth of time, 30 minutes worth of time, or is it
30.
adjustable depending on
Yeah.
your need?
20, 10,
2010?
5. Do I
I
hear
mean,
another?
well, how do you know you're getting the most benefit? Because sometimes people say, well, I'm going to schedule, 20 minutes of my day doing, X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to, because there's going to be a result, a benefit, or whatever as a result of that, as part of that activity. Or,
Get a
you know,
teacher.
what's that?
Find a teacher.
Find a
It's not
teacher.
find a teacher.
Okay.
Look online, find a program. It's so simple now. It's ridiculously simple to do that. We're meeting. I met someone who's a volunteer, a yoga teacher, teaches meditation nearby. She was inquiring. I said, all right, we're low on meditation content. Literally, it's this week's conversation. So she's working on audio, short audio, 3-minute meditations, things like that.
Okay.
So we're building. That's the answer too. Well, we don't have it yet, but it's in the hopper. Uh, Tune in next week. Go to the YouTube channel. Get a newsletter. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, but she's working on it. So that's how do we get people started is to provide them that. But there are very many teachers out there, and we have meditation on our YouTube channel because we've been doing programming for over a decade.
Cool. Well, what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have all of your social media links so that I put them in the description and so that people can know how to contact you. But for those who want to contact you and kind of do it in person, where are you in the world?
Besides, in the
Geographically, I'm in Virginia. Where are you?
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh, North Carolina? Okay, great.
But we have teachers and team in Charlotte,
Okay.
North Carolina,
All right.
and Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
But we're primarily based here, but we've grown because we've had the opportunity to have our teachers be remote, and also these wonderful people are on our board.
Cool.
So they are invested in our presence. We're regional as well as virtual now. So yeah, it's been encouraging that there is light there and that we all go through cycles. And fortunately, we're not in a suffering way, but we are a nonprofit. I do want to mention we have a silent auction going on now. And the social media is You Call This Yoga. YOUCALLTHISYOGA.org.
Okay.
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube channels, all of that. And it's
Cool.
HowieYouCallThisYoga.org. Um, Very easy. I seek to respond. We're seeking team uh, as part of the venture too. You don't have to be in Raleigh, as you might have noted. Uh, Yoga is not as foreign as one might think. It's not a disruption of your religious beliefs. It's a supplement to that. It doesn't disrupt my religious beliefs in any way. In fact, our religious leaders are yoga practitioners, and it's not their first culture. So it's all just out there as a supplement or an enrichment. It's whatever you do, it's just another good thing to be part of.
So, as a final thought, what would you give our listeners or somebody who's thinking about stepping into the practice of yoga in 30 seconds or less? How would you encourage somebody to follow into that practice?
Go. Yoga is a personal practice, but it is optimal in a community, but it has to start somewhere. So consider that it's safe. You can practice at home. It's acceptable. There's many places that are supportive, and we can help guide you there.
Howie, I like that. In 30 seconds or less, that was perfect. I would love to do this again, but this is enough time for this edition of the Question Guy podcast. And for those who are watching and listening, we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you. I'm glad to be part of the second season.